Hello and welcome back to another video within the span of 3 days, which is always pleasant. So this week, as part of the main video, the last one I did was Sunday, and that was the Jerry Anderson video games and my memories with all of his shows and whatnot. This week, I thought it'd be better. I thought it'd be better to do something a little more in line with what I've been doing prior, and that is my top 10 Sega Saturn games. It's been nearly a year since I last talked about the Sega Saturn, which is nuts. That's insane. I believe it might have been the Panzer Dragoon video, or it might have been the just general Saturn collection. There's been a lot of updates since then. I've acquired things like Shining Force 3. I've acquired the kind of big gun for a certain game on this list. A lot of Saturn games in the last year, which is very nice. I always love more Saturn here. Probably my maybe third largest collection. As you can see, there are a lot missing from the shelf, so we're going to get started. No special mentions, no real order to this either. I will just kind of pick and choose. Though, I do have a favourite on the Saturn, and that is one I will get to. In fact, it's going to be that last one. So, we'll start with Virtual On. Virtual On for the Sega Saturn. I did get the big controller. You can see it about here, just behind the Vectrex. That is the twin stick that does work with the PAL regions. It even has it mentioned in the manual, which is pretty insane. I think it does anyway. Yes, there it is. There it is. That terrible drawing. That is the twin sticks for Panzer Dragoon. Not Panzer Dragoon. For Virtual On. Not many games utilised the Saturn twin stick. More games utilised the flight stick, which is one I'm still looking for, but that thing's very expensive. I've been playing a lot of these on my Polymega recently, which is very nice. And Virtual On, yeah, Virtual On's a very solid game. It's not the one I kind of pseudo grew up with. I bought, I believe it was Ontario program for the Dreamcast, but I bought the Xbox 360 live arcade version, which was awesome. It's really, really good. I just went on a download binge of all of those games that I bought during that period recently. I've been meaning to pick up a couple of others, but Virtual On was one of my immediate plays. Immediately. Had to play Virtual On Cyber Troopers Ontario program. But the Saturn original, yeah, you know, it's very, very solid. There's also the fact they've all got Sega Saturns on their back that power them, which is always hilarious. Yeah, just a very solid game. Very solid game. Speaking of solid games, one of my other favourites, Guardian Heroes. Now, again, a lot of my love for these various Saturn games comes from all of those re-releases on the 360. You had Virtua Fighter 2. You had Nights into Dreams, I bought that. They had a couple of Dreamcast ports, like Jet Set Radio, bought that as well. Both really good ports, actually. I think they're based off the PS2/PC versions. Guardian Heroes, by contrast, is by, I believe, Treasure. Are you Treasure? I think that, yeah, this is Treasure. This is Treasure, who also did Radiant Silvergun, which is a game I will never own because you've seen how expensive it is. Have you seen how expensive it is? £2,000, maybe. It's been a while since I looked, but this I picked up 10 years ago now for about 50 quid from a gaming expo in London, which don't go to those. Don't go to the gaming. Don't go to Comic-Con if you're looking to just buy video games, because you're spending 50 quid, $50, whatever it may be, to get in, and then you're going to be spending hundreds on the games anyway, when you could go to a retro game shop and buy them without spending 50 quid. So, yeah. What did I think of Guardian Heroes, though? I will be perfectly honest with you. I've played more of this on the 360, but I still think the Saturn version is 100% worth getting. It's 100% worth getting. It's such a fantastic side-scrolling sort of fighter beat-em-up style thing. I do play on easy because I'm not very good. I'm not very good with games of this era. I'm just not very bad, but that's okay. A game you can't be bad at because it's bad anyway. Sonic R. Sonic R is awful. But I love it. I love the music being wildly awkward. I love the tracks. I love the fact that you could beat this in an afternoon. I've never really actually bothered to sit down and do that, but you can. I even love that this is really the only major Sonic game that they've released for the Saturn, because Sonic Extreme was cancelled. Though, I am looking forward to the kind of the major project to finish that for Saturn. Like it'll work on a modified Saturn, which I happen to have, which was very nice. But yeah, Sonic R. The thing with playing a lot of Saturn games is I've had a Saturn for a very long time. I've got two. I've got the Polymega. A big part of it was so I can play Sega Saturn games in HDMI, but a lot of them I've played on other systems first. Sonic R is no exception. It was the Sonic Gems collection, which, if you don't know, was a collection on PS2, I think, and definitely GameCube. I had the GameCube version. It came with Sonic R, Sonic CD, and Sonic the Fighters, which is another game I bought on Xbox Live Arcade because it's awful and I love it. It's Sonic R is a game I bust out multiplayer-wise every time I've got the GameCube out, and I just kind of needed to own the Saturn version. If you were to ask me what's the best version to play, I'd say GameCube. But if you're going to get it on Saturn, get it. It's a delight in its awfulness. It's awful, but it's wonderful. Okay, you know what? This is always on there. Bearing in mind, this is in no particular order. I mean, the only one that will be in order is my favourite, quite frankly. But we'll get to, and you'll probably guess what it is. Sega Rally Championship is not my top 10. Is not my favourite game on the Saturn, but it is definitely up there. This is one of the flat-out best racing games on the entire system. If not the best. Sod it. I mean, I love Daytona as much as the next person, but if you're going to play Daytona, you're best playing the arcade version. Sega Rally Championship, on the other hand, really very good. I even went out of my way to find a Dreamcast, I believe it's a sequel. Could be horribly wrong, but I believe it's a sequel. And I also went out of my way to find it on 360. Not this, but Sega Rally, just kind of as a whole. You don't really get racing franchises anymore. Racing games have kind of died off, that I've seen. They're mostly just glorified advertisements for cars, which... yay. Not my favourite, but Sega Rally definitely is. Controls wonderfully. I bought the bloody... I bought the racing wheels strictly for this. You know what? It's an arcade racer, so it will work. It will work with the steering wheel. Steering wheel was a tenner. I'm not going to say no. It was 10 quid out of a CEX. Solid game. Definitely one of my favourites. I'm not a huge racing fan. There's the odd game. So, for example, with the N64, I think it was about a quarter of all the games on the bloody thing were racing. So you kind of have to play it. You kind of have to play racing games on the N64. With the Saturn, there were a few, mostly stuff like Daytona, Daytona Circuit Edition, I think it's called. I think that's one of the rare ones that has a one you can play online. Because believe it or not, the Saturn had online play, which is nuts. I think another game that was compatible with that, excuse me if I'm wrong, but I think it might be Saturn Bomberman. Saturn Bomberman, I think, is playable online, but I could be horribly wrong on that, so don't quote me. It's been a very long time since I looked into playing the Sega Saturn online. I mean, who the hell's playing a Sega Saturn online nowadays? Nobody is. Which is a shame. But If Saturn Bomberman isn't, let me know in the comments. Solid game. Such a good, like, genuinely. I was going through my top 50 games. So I made a top 50 games list the other day. I'm still waiting on one of them to arrive physically, so I'll be doing this. Yeah, that will be a Christmas thing, I think. I think around Christmas, I'm gonna do, instead of any traditional Christmas game stuff, because it'll just be Christmas nights again, I'm gonna do my top 50 games. So it'll be 5 videos over the span of a week, just kind of breaking down my top 10, top 20, top 30, top 40, top 50 games of all time, which will be very exciting. My top 10 has changed since last year, actually. It changed a lot. A lot of games were just dropped from the roster. Halo 2 found its way back on to my top 10, which is nuts, but that's been part of my Halo kit. Saturn Bomberman is one of the first games that went on there. It's one of the first games that went on that list. It's just flat out amazing. It's just flat out amazing. It's not my favourite Saturn game. It's not. I like it, but it's not my favourite. We'll get to my favourite. We'll get to my favourite eventually. Fighters Megamix is up next. I know there's Virtual Fighter. I know there's Virtual Fighter 2, Virtual Fighter Kids, Fighting Vipers, Battle Arena Toshinden, Last Bronx, I think it's called, stuff like that. There's a lot of fighting games on the Saturn. They're all mostly 3D polygonal. Why they never ported Sonic the Fighters onto it baffles me. Or onto Dreamcast, for that matter. Come on, Sega. But Fighters Megamix is the best one you can get. It just is. It's got characters from every single one of those. It's got them from Virtua Fighter, Fighting Vipers, Virtua Fighter Kids, Sonic Fighters, Virtua Cop 2, and Daytona USA. You can play as a car in a fighting game. You can play as this giant, ridiculous-looking, unanimated bear. It's just a bear. And it's shit. It's terrible. It's massive. It's got no animations of any variety. And it's the go-to fighter for me. It's who I play as because he's garbage. But it's such a fun game. Like, honestly, when I get the Saturn... When I get the Saturn out to play with people, or if I'm suggesting we're playing it on the Polymega, which I'll be doing soon once I get a new controller, or an additional controller. The old controller's fun. But when I do that, this is one of my immediate go-to games, along with Saturn Bomberman and Sega Rally. Actually, now I think about it, those 3 are kind of my go-to multiplayer games for the Saturn. It's just they're just so much fun. Guardian Heroes as well, to a lesser extent. I don't have a multi-tap. And especially with, like, the Polymega, I don't think that supports the 6 players online. No, locally. I could be wrong. Be nice if I was, but here we are. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. We'll get to that one. You know what? That will be my favourite one. What could this be? It's Magic Knight Rayearth. I still haven't gotten a case for this. There's one on Etsy I've been staring at for a while, but it's like 30 quid. Magic Knight Rayearth is probably one of the flat-out best games on the Saturn, and it's also one of the most ludicrously expensive. When I bought this was 36 quid. This alone. Just the disc. And I was like, that's a lot for a game. Whatever. Looks good. I like the sound of it. It looks okay. I've got, you know what? Her name completely escapes me, but this is the red variant. There was Umi. I'd have preferred the blue variant, personally. And there's also the green variant. So it's for all 3 magical girls who are playable in the game. It was the last Working Designs game. I don't know if in general, because I don't think that's true, but it was definitely the last one for the Saturn. I think it was the last release for the Saturn in America, period. And it is highly sought after. Highly sought after. Very, very, very hideously expensive. Hideously expensive game. Not the most hideously expensive game I've got on this system. We'll get to him in a moment. But definitely up there. Definitely up there. Nastily expensive. But how's the gameplay? Really solid. don't get me, I'm not an action RPG of that fan of that era. If someone hands me, I don't know, Crusader of Senti or I don't know, Shining Force Wisdom, or yeah, I mean, I played Shining Force Wisdom. I thought it was dreadful. By contrast, there's an awful lot of talking in this, but I like that. It kind of breaks up the really boring, monotonous combat that you often get with games of this era. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the Mega Drive as much as the next person. I'm a big fan of certain games on the SNES. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say a lot of the gameplay, however, can be excruciatingly monotonous. It's either all 2D platformers or it's all turn-based RPGs, a lot of stuff that I don't play. There are always exceptions to that rule, though, and Magic Knight Rare 3 is one. I even tried watching the anime a while ago on a website. Piracy. Piracy. No, not piracy. No, definitely not piracy. It was a streaming website a very long time ago that ran old anime. It might have been Crunchyroll, actually. I think Magic Knight Rare is on Crunchyroll. It's fine. It's fine. It's not an anime I'll probably go back to. I may. It depends. I mean, I really like the game. Once I get a decent case for it that isn't an old Wii one, I think I will be all over that. But, yeah, playing the Polymega has been really nice. It's been nice playing this ludicrously expensive thing, especially for games that I wouldn't normally play or touch. Goodness, dusty. Especially because this is one of my top 3 games on the Saturn. Panzer Dragoon Saga. Yeah, I am always loath to put this in anything, just in case I scratch it, or it breaks, or just, yeah, this is strictly shelf candy. Got this. In fact, my mum bought me this in 2013. Because I got my Saturn in 2012. I got this in 2013 for 140 quid. 140 pounds. At the time, that was expensive. Nowadays, it's like 700. It's insane how expensive this game is. To be perfectly honest with you, if you've got a modded Saturn, repro it. Repro it. Repro the game. Just do that, because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. It's not worth that price. It's amazing. Its story is fantastic. Its characters are great. Even its turn-based... Like, I'm not a turn-based JRPG person. I'm not. I can't stand Final Fantasy. I can't stand Eternal Sonata. I can't stand a lot of these games. I just can't. I've tried. I tried to get into Xenoblade. I hate Xenoblade. I despise it. But I don't hate its world. Its worlds, its exploration, they're all great. It's the combat. It's dreadful. Panzer Dragoon Saga is nearly the one to break that mold. It's very, very, very close. Very, very, very close. It's not my favourite Panzer Dragoon game on the Saturn, though. What could it possibly be? But before we get to that, I mentioned that this year I picked up a big old gun for a big old game. And that is House of the Dead. I love House of the Dead. I adore House of the Dead. I am dreadful at House of the Dead, and one of these days I will get Typing of the Dead for the Dreamcast. And that will probably be in my top 10 Dreamcast games video, whenever the hell I get round to doing that. At the moment, there aren't enough games on the Dreamcast that I have that I like, so all good. But House of the Dead in general, I've played the arcade version of the original several dozen times. There was an arcade machine in a town not far from me that ran this bloody thing, and it was awesome. It was very cool. So I had to pick up the gun when it showed up in town. I had the long box. I had the long box version, and I was like, you know what? It's 10 extra quid. If I get, you know, I'm going to trade that original one in. I don't care. I did a straight up trade with the guy, gave him an extra tenner, and he gave me that. Perfect. Perfect. Fantastic game. Very cool gun. Big old gun. Yeah, big old gun. That fell out. That's helpful. And the game's actually in there. Oh, it is. Great. There you go. Little jewel case. Little jewel case. stick that on a shelf, you'd be able to tell that's Saturn. Got a number of games like that, be it Nights into Dreams, Christmas Nights, things like that. Big old gun. I've got a few light guns for different Saturn consoles. I've got one for Dreamcast, one for Saturn now, and I've got one for the Master System, which is quite weird. I don't have one for the Mega Drive. I need to get the one for the Mega Drive. I'm also debating on getting the one for the Polymega. I don't know if I'd play it, but it would actually make playing House of the Dead considerably easier. Even though this game is fantastic. It is fantastic. It's just, yeah, you kind of run into issues playing light gun games when you're not using a bloody light gun, because the cursor goes all over the place and it's impossible to hit anything. Anyway, that's 9. What's my favourite game on the Saturn? It's the original Panzer Dragoon. Now, I will freely admit, I've got Zwei. I've never played it. I've been meaning to. I know it's more in keeping with Star Fox. I know you can beat this game in an hour. I've beaten Remake in an hour. I've beaten this in an hour. They're excellent. But the original has just something about it that is so different. Even if let's be perfectly honest, that cover art is horrible. Now think about it, most cover art from this era was hot steaming garbage if it was 3D, except maybe House of the Dead is actually fine. House of the Dead is okay, but a lot of these look like crap. This game, however, oh my god, I love Panzer Dragoon. I absolutely love Panzer Dragoon. And a big part of it started with that. That was one of the first games I got for the system. I think my original lineup was, if I remember correctly, Crusader No Remorse, Virtua Fighter 1, Virtua Fighter 2, Sega Rally Championship, and Exhumed. Which, now I think about it, should have been on this list. Honourable mention is Exhumed. There we go. Fantastic game. Just play Power Slave Exhumed. It's the same thing. But Panzer Dragoon Original. That's one of the first games I bought for the Saturn. In fact, I got it. So I got the Saturn in 2012 for my birthday. Because I was like, I need this thing. I bought a Dreamcast for like 30 quid, 40 quid. Which at the time, crazy cheap. Very nice. I think it still works. It'd be nice if it did. But I needed a Saturn. There was something about the Saturn, and a big part of it was Panzer Dragoon. So I knew about Mega Drive, I knew that. I knew about the Master System to a lesser degree. The Saturn I knew nothing about. It was untouched territory. And Panzer Dragoon was kind of my avenue in. I started looking into it. I was like, oh, I've heard of Orta. I've heard of Panzer Dragoon Orta. I bought it for £3. Very nice. Thank you. Miss you old game prices. But the original Panzer Dragoon I bought for £20. 20 quid back in 2012. And yeah, it was so fucking good. The music's amazing. The design of everything is amazing. Even nowadays, there's like an almost ethereal aspect to this game that I think Remake lost. Not that I don't like Remake, because I do. I'm really hoping that Forever Entertainment get off their assholes and make Remake 2. That'd be nice, instead of working on bloody Front Mission. I want Panzer Dragoon. Hurry up. Not even going to be polite about it. I want it, give it to me. But the original Panzer Dragoon was my in on the Saturn. It was the first major game I bought for myself for this system, and it remains my flat-out favourite. But yeah, outside the honourable mention of Exhumed, that is my top 10. My top 10. Technically top 11 if you count Exhumed, because solid. Top 11. It's my top 11 Sega Saturn games. So that's me, done for another week. Let me know in the comments what your favourite Sega Saturn games are, and don't forget to like, subscribe, maybe share, that'd be great, and give us a comment. All helps the channel. That would be lovely. Anyway, guys, that's me signing off.